My firm is Mantis. It's a little more than 20 years old. We're probably very old in the country. We have developed about 55 games, out of which 45 are dead. So I want to tell you that about the death part before you think that I have so many games on my shelf. Out of the 10 or 12, all of them are related to business operations, business strategy, project management, marketing management, and so on. We have a game on entrepreneurship. Our project management game was built on the basis of Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, a pipeline which hasn't come up in reality so far. I also teach business management schools. So that teaching and in between the research part has been very helpful for me to design these games. A game is basically an excuse to learn. Formally we call it a metaphor. And as you can see, the essential parts of a game is that somebody does something inside as a participant, and he also has to look back on that game to see what he did, what others did, and therefore connect his experiences with his emotions and then draw conclusions. I'll go into deeper theory a little later, but here it is. So today I'll connect my experiences with formal concepts and raw research findings wherever I can. And then somewhere at the, maybe after the 75% stage of my talk, I'll certainly tell you that there are two people who learn from the game. The participant and people like me who make and design and run games. The first part is what I think all of you are eager to listen to, and here it goes. Learning is what is a trigger for change. So if you have changed today as compared to yesterday, you have learned something. Maybe it's conscious, maybe it's not. Maybe it's deliberate, maybe it's not. But if you could accelerate the pace of that trigger, what we call learning, you could be one day ahead in time, but you could probably finish a year's work in a day, which means you are hastening, you are becoming more aware to deal with problems of reality, and so that you become more competent and more stronger to be able to face the world. Basically, learning changes you, as what I put at the bottom. So, I make simulation games. So before we go forward, I need to be able to separate the two, games versus simulations. Games are basically interactions. All of you have seen about it here, and I think all of you have also come here on the basis of seeing a variety of games. The heart of the games is between a competition or a contest between two people, maybe individuals, maybe animals, maybe the system and you, as in a chess game or a game where you run a racing car game or whatever it is. But basically it's a competition. Sometimes the competition ends in victory, but always if you try hard, if you should, it ends in learning. And what about the simulation part? A simulation is something that simulates, which means replicates. It also could be a narration or a repetition of something that happened in the past or might have happened in some kind of dark future. So a science fiction film is a simulation. The Mahabharata, which you see on TV or on the screen, is a simulation. And a case study on paper or a news report is a simulation. It's just a narration. It could be real, it need not be. When you mix the simulation and the game, you get a very powerful learning experience and event for all humanity to learn from. It could speed up the process of learning several hundred times. Because the classroom setup is abstract, and I'm sure all of you would agree with me when it's often boring. But when you are part of the activity as you would be in a game, you tend to learn more. And when the activity hurts you once in a while, stretches you, challenges you, well, that's a game, isn't it? It compares you with how other participants on the team have done. It compares you with other competitors over whom you have succeeded to outbeat and outthink. I think it becomes very exciting. And that excitement, that emotion helps you learn faster. I started in 1998, my journey into games. By 2003, I had made about, I think, 10 or 11 games, different business scenarios, business industries, so to speak. In 2003, Mantis was born. It was essentially a platform to understand learning from an experiential context, and games are basically experiences. Across that particular period, a variety of games have been made. The list is quite long here. It's just a brief list here, out of which we have games as short as maybe half an hour. The typical business operations game lasts for a day. It's used both for MBA students as well as for career managers. You also have games for 2 days, which is for the second year MBA students, maybe 2-3 months or maybe a month before their placement exercise begins. And career managers, say at the age of 40, 45, 50, the senior managers, so to speak, to help them understand both the past and the future. Games help you understand things that a normal class does not. It helps you predict. It helps you follow the results of your prediction. It helps you connect prediction and results, decisions and results, what has happened and what may have been. And therefore, between these gaps, you tend to learn very, very fast, especially because you are a part of it. We have a 30-hour game, which we concluded recently last month for a university of 118 students, 2 batches. The 30 hours game was spread across 3 months. This is the third time we are playing that game for them. The game had covered the business scenario, the business environment of a firm within which a team of 6 students adopted different roles as managers and ran that company for 9 stages of 3 months each across the 30-hour session. In the last 3-month session, in the last 3-hour session of that game, the students spoke about their learning. Bloom is a respected person in the taxonomy of learning objectives, as he called it. He suggested there were at least 6 levels from which you could learn. The bottommost level is familiar to you, that of study, memorization. The next level is about understanding, where you ask questions, where you find examples of what you studied, and you say, I can understand this. You go beyond. Suppose you studied about a 4-legged animal. You go around studying 4-legged animals, so you realize that there's a dog, there's a cat, there's a cow, and you see differences. You understand. A third stage is that of using what you studied, applying it, which is of course the objective of any class-going student. A fourth level is that of application and using of whatever you have done into a larger screen, which is in terms of both analysis and synthesis. A fifth level of learning objectives, why a person should learn. The fifth level is for you to be able to judge for yourself about whatever has happened to you or whatever you can see happening. For example, a tea taster, a cricket commentator, a judge is probably at that level, the level 5. And the level 6 is about innovation, is about creation, something new, solving a problem differently from the formulae or from the rules that you have already been used to. That is 6th level. That is, according to Bloom, the 6 levels of learning taxonomy. Basically, it answers the question, why should you learn? Or also, how should you learn? Because I was in the area of learning for the last 20, 25 years, I thought of adding to that pyramid and say, why don't we learn? Or at least I learn. I learn because I want to experiment. I want to explore. I want to learn because I want to solve problems. And lastly, I hope you agree with me. And I hope you agree with yourselves as well. I am sure you learn because you want to have fun. So what's fun? I told you I would give you the definition of fun, and here it is. I'll leave it to you to read, and then I'll summarize what it says. Okay, I'll read it out to you slowly. Fun in games arises out of mastery. That means you feel you've mastered the game. You don't have to be the best in the country, but you've mastered the game, some element of the game, you've become better than what you were yesterday or maybe 5 minutes back. You've accomplished something. It arises out of comprehension, understanding. You know now what to do next. It is the act of solving puzzles. That is, you have been able to clear the mystery. That makes games fun. With games, learning is a drug. And that's good. We thought drugs were bad. Which is why people play games continuously. Whether it's PUBG or cricket or chess or Sudoku at airports. I played Sudoku yesterday morning at the airport. It's fun. It's a drug. Why? Because you would like to find out, can you do better? Can you improve upon yourself? Is there something that you can discern or extract from the game which you did not know before? So there it is. The definition of fun is about what you discover from your practice, from your activity. What are these elements of games that make things fun? Now, most of this is derived from what Costa said. I've elaborated on some things, and here they are. You want excitement. Excitement comes when you have surprises, and of course, surprises also must be a very well mixed with ups and downs, pains. Most of you who have followed a game of cricket, I think you know what happens. Challenges. We will come to one more theorist who speaks about challenges and problems soon. If you have a challenge, you like to find out, stand up straight and try to see whether you can outthink that challenge and do it better than before. I used to do Sudoku in about 45 minutes, maybe 6, 7, 8 years back. I'm better today. I think I need about 12 to 15 minutes or so. That's a good challenge. I'm doing fine. And that's why I love playing games. It helps me discover my strength and my weaknesses. It tells me where to go. And I can translate what I learned in my games to something else as well. I can transfer it. Scaffolding. What is called bite-sized steps. Scaffolding is about taking, like going up the stairs. You take one stair at a time instead of jumping all the way from the ground floor to the top floor. It's easier. The effort is much less. Every time you take a step, you feel that I've reached this position. This is great. I feel fresh air here and I have accomplished something, and it's fascinating to be here. So that emotion, that accomplishment, that sense of accomplishment pushes you further so that you can climb yourself again. For this process of learning within the game, do you need a teacher? No. Do you need a trainer? Perhaps. Maybe a coach once in a while, but I think you can learn on your own if there's a game behind you. Collective interactions. If you learn with other people, it's good because they tend to teach you, question you, debate you, and you do the same thing with that colleague. Of course, you get into a little bit of argument once in a while, but that's good. Sometimes suddenly you come back to the team and realize that it's only a moment where you have let loose your emotions, but both of you are back to senses and realize that if you can argue further, it's good. That's why teams that interact with each other well are also teams that debate with each other well. They teach each other faster than a teacher can in any class. Repetition. We have heard about the comment on rote study. often called rote learning. Rote learning is the wrong word. Rote study is the right word. A number of adults have put it down saying that rote study or rote learning is bad. But they say it from the adult point of view, having forgotten that when you studied your arithmetic, your 2 into 2, 2 into 3, 2 into 4, and 2 into 5, you all did it without thinking and trying to think about it at depth. Nor did you remember your alphabet, whether in English or your local language. Did you think about it in terms of learning and not study? There are lots of things you do in life which you do it repeatedly. And after some time, you become very good at it. And suddenly, there is some serendipitous moment where suddenly the learning is a leap. When that happens, it's very difficult to predict. And what happens next, what is the benefit of that learning because of this repetition, is also very difficult to predict. Think about a line. I don't know, I hope you're familiar with the x-axis and y-axis. Think about a line that goes parallel to the x-axis, being the time. And then suddenly the line starts climbing up very sharply. That is the benefit of repeated action. If there's anything that you do repeatedly, please do it more. If you want to become the king of what you want to do, the champion, please repeat. You do a lot of repetitive stuff very easily. You drive your car while thinking of something else. You have been brushing your teeth for a long time. You don't think about you don't think about why I brushed my teeth. Can I do it better? By doing it. You do it very absent-mindedly. It's important for you to do lots of things to do repeatedly. If you have a problem which you can't solve easily, I suggest you attend to the problem a second time, third time, a 10th time, a 20th time. Suddenly it becomes very easy for you to do. Whether you're writing some paper or talking to somebody else or making a better cup of coffee, repetition is the answer. And in games that you have repetitions, you can find that person becoming better and better. I mean, look at anybody playing a game for the umpteenth time. He is so good at it. Feedback. The player wants to know how he is doing. So you can give him a scoreboard, or you can tell the player again and again whatever he or she is doing, as far as possible anonymously, because if he is an adult, he like to take that feedback in not so good terms. But you can give him anonymous status, a cricket ground that says he's out at 5. I think it's far better than you tell him you paid badly and therefore you should not have done this and so on. So if you can give feedback, that means you tell the player how he is doing, how he is not doing, etc. I think he is more likely to use that as some kind of an performance indicator, and therefore try to learn and become better. And he will repeat himself. You can try, I have tried feedback with respect to data being very specific, and of course visual data as well, which is very powerful in getting people to change. And of course, a game should have opportunity for correction. That's why in cricket we have the second innings. I spoke about something here called challenge. So here we come to something called challenge. I don't know whether you are familiar with this. It's called the flow theory. Flow is another word for engagement. This theory was first pondered by Csikszentmihalyi. It took me about 18 years to pronounce him correctly. I get his spelling more or less right now. His first name is Mihaly. He passed away about 2 years back. In 85 or thereabouts, he was the first to say, tell you why people are so engaged with what you're doing, which is what games can do. When are you totally engaged with what you're doing? Look at the map for a while, and maybe it'll give you clues as to why you are so engaged with whatever you're doing, whenever you're doing whatever it is. First of all, this image is slightly wrong. We'll come to that slowly, very quickly. Look at the bottom x-axis, skills, low skills, high axis, high skills, and on the y-axis we have challenges. low challenges and high challenges. And at the extreme right hand top corner, we have flow. Six and Mihaly defined flow as the point where the challenges you meet are adequately met by the skills that you have. Take a simple game like Sudoku. If you're going to sit with a Sudoku that you cannot do, you're going to become frustrated. If you take on a Sudoku that's too easy, you're not going to do it at all. You're going to stop doing and say, this is too childish for me. You want something that challenges you, whether you play cricket or chess or badminton or whatever you can think of. Now, if you can construct these learning experiences for anybody who plays a game in such a way that the problems within are just exactly, so to speak, slightly more than what the person can do. I say more, slightly more. What does it say? The reach must exceed the grasp. You should make the learner jump to be able to conquer something. If you can make him do that, he will come out of that experience being extremely happy of having conquered a defect that he had. So therefore, here he talks about high challenges and high skills. That is not true actually totally. As long as your skills are slightly less than the challenges you can meet, I think that's good enough. Because it's not as if everybody has high challenges and high skills, and therefore only those people will feel totally engaged with the game. But that's what a game can do. You can have several levels of games for the participant to be able to participate, play, and then say, this was fantastic. This is engagement in a game. I hope you can see it. Can I have volume, please? Yes, I took that video, but they're not looking up. They were too engrossed. This was part of a game that we had last month. I told you about the 30-hour game. There were 52, 53 other students in that same hall, a class of 59. They were senior MBA students. They're doing a 30-hour game. And you can see they're so engrossed in whatever they're doing, they cannot hear or feel anything that's happening outside. A good game has to be able to do that. A good game in learning has to do that. Because otherwise the game will become too serious in such a way that the participant will suddenly realize that this game is boring. It's not stretching. So in this game, a lot of activities were parceled into small bits and pieces. They were told to do this job before than the other, so that there was a little bit of scaffolding all the way. Lots of bits of data were given to them from time to time to show which direction they were moving in. It also told them that they were good or bad. We ranked them also along 4, 5, 6 different parameters. So they realized that I was better than that team with respect to this indicator, but worse than the other team in respect of that indicator. That pushed them hard. And of course, they are learning on their own. There's no teacher around. In a game, there's no teacher. I did not teach in that game. I don't teach in any game that I do. I allow them to learn on their own. The experience pushes them on their own. Kolb was somebody who talked about experiential learning. Experiential learning, he suggested that you learn from an event like this. You see an event or you feel an event. You come to a conclusion. I'm not using the technical words that you use. You use words, very long words like conceptualization and all that. Now from that conclusion, he took the matter further and responded accordingly. If it worked, then he continued that practice in future as well. Let's take an example. I see clouds up there. After some time there is rain. So I conclude that clouds make rain. Good decision. So therefore, I take an umbrella out and go out. But that happens only maybe till about September. After that, you might have clouds, but it may not rain. So therefore, at the second visit to that model, I start refining what I've learned. But this learning is principally learned from my experiences. My experiences are those that I have participated in, or they could also be something that I've observed or felt to any of my senses. I learn faster this way. So one way of getting people to learn from gaming is to help them realize their emotions, connect it up to actual data in the game, what they did, how they did, and what happened next. Several experiences in learning can be taken further into helping people to understand. You could look at it in terms of the beginning and end of a process. For example, if you're looking at chess game, you can look at the time, how did it begin, how did it end, who did what should not have been done, and so on. A second issue which you can look at is before the game. You can look at the history of the game itself. You can look at the psychology of the participants. You can look back and find out how they affected the game itself. And you could then translate it to life. A third level where you could learn from a game is look at it in terms of its practice. The game is over. What did you learn? Fine. Now how can you apply it to real life? In the business games that we do, we often ask a question at the student level as to how do you intend to apply this in real life. But when you play this for managers, we ask them, what experience did you have at the desk which you can qualify and explain in terms of the lessons that you have had from this game? You could focus on two other issues. That is, have you become aware about something, such as, for example, a definition or a skill? Have you has the game made me do something repeatedly better than before? You could also look at it in terms of, has the game been able to prove a theory, or has it been able to improve a practice? I'll summarize in about next 2-3 minutes. So when we start learning from a game, we look at these 4 aspects. One is the data about a game, because the data are things that you see. If the participant has not seen the data, you can't ask him what experience did you feel. The second issue is about what did the participant actually do in the game. You look at a typical game of cricket or chess, you can actually see the moves and you can work backwards. If an analyst looks at the game, or some other student looks at the game, or the participant who actually played the game, the player, if you can ask him to look at the game himself, a self-appraisal as he saw, then I think we can get him to look at it deeper in terms of those interactions. In team games, we must ask the participant to be able to explain what did he do, how did he do, along with his other teammates. Did he learn from them? Did he teach them? Did he argue? Did he help? And so on. And lastly, of course, we can look at it in terms of errors and events, as to how, because some events and some errors might affect the player differently from others. This is a group of students making a self-appraisal at the end of the session. Every learner has to speak about his experiences. Without the speaking part, the game is no learning. The game is only an experience. The learning comes from talking about it. Every experience that you have, whether a game or otherwise, there is learning only when you speak about it. I think I'll let you read this quickly. Now this is my presentation in terms of what the player of a game could learn. I suddenly realized after having made some of the presentations that there were other things that we did, such as research, watching participants play, um, and trying to help understand from their collective movements and the collective decisions at what could be learned from them. We learned a lot of other things that follows now, but I'll stop at this stage because we would like you to ask questions on whatever I presented. Sarah? There are several opportunities you can. Okay. Sure. There are several themes that you can run your games for learning. I hope you do. I hope you, when you make games for learning, I hope you pick up the most difficult aspects on earth and try to run it, because imagine a game. We run a game for a day of business operations. The students seem to understand what we do in a game. It takes about 5-6 months in accounting and finance and other business aspects. You're basically understanding at the rate of 180 days, you're saving for him. In 2 days, we do a 2-year program, summarizing everything so fast, which means the games that you can conduct can probably go at the speed of 300, 400 times at the rate of a conventional class. So as I was discussing with somebody here, why don't you have games on trigonometry or calculus or quantum theory, which is so difficult to understand, or games on understanding Greek or Chinese? I mean, imagine a student, he will learn very, very fast, save you the cost. Or your online game should be able to reach all those far-off villages and so on, so that everybody can understand English so quickly. Why don't you have a Scrabble on the net? A simpler Scrabble, for instance. Anyway, a game is an experience that can cut short your learning substantially, not 10%, 20%. I'm talking about 300, 400 times. It can help you learn in such a way that you will not forget. It can help the participant learn without the need for a trainer or teacher like me. This is my research, but I think I'll stop here and hope for. There are other slides. The slides are here. Maybe they'll talk about other works that I've done with respect to research and learning. If you have any questions.
Yeah. So I think we can open up for Q&A and use this time. So please keep your questions ready. Just raise your hands and we'll come and circulate the mic. Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. Hi. Thank you for that talk. I think experiential learning is something that's very, very important in education, especially in India. My question is this, though. Since you say that we cut down the amount of time that we need to learn something through experiential learning, I think this, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this then means that we need to rely on intuition of players and users in order to obtain facts and analysis from the things that they experience, and we call that learning. But for more complicated and abstract ideas, isn't asking users to rely on intuition maybe missing the point of what we want to teach them? Because very often intuition cannot capture those complex and abstract ideas, right? And very often intuition doesn't help in teaching somebody what actually is the reasoning behind why something happens. So I think, I view this as a problem. So how do you think we should approach that problem? Do you think we should just put definitions in front of users, or do you think there's another way where we can integrate less intuitive ideas into these experiential learning systems?
See, an experience is such that everybody learns differently at different pace. It's not the intuition that's acting, it's your basically personality, which means how you have grown over a period of time. If the two of you were neighbors starting from the same school, you would grow up differently. Twins have grown up differently because of the social forces, social impact. If 3 people or 2 people watch the same film, they would have 2 different opinions. 2 people stood sitting side by side watching the same cricket match would have different opinions. So learning is personal. The conclusions are there. You may at best later on contest his conclusions and say that this is not right. At the most you can say you did not take in this data, but he'll say I'm still right because I feel this data as far as I'm concerned is right. So my conclusion is according to this data I am right and he is also right. So to taking it to a different level, learning is a personal, I wonder whether I may use the word, opinion. After all, knowledge is an opinion, isn't it? What you know, what he knows and she knows is an opinion. So learning could also be that.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Earlier you said that rote memorization is not always helpful and that it's not always bad. But then how do you differentiate between the two, like the rote memorization between the repetitive learning? How do you differentiate between the two?
They're basically the same. You can go deeper and find out a thread here and there which suggests that rote memorization is different from this. I did not use the word memorization. But
rote
I
study,
said repetition of something without thinking about the meaning of it. That's what today adults suggest, that children should not do this, children should not do that and all that. In the contrary, I say you must do it. Please repeat something again and again. At some point in time, you suddenly realize something you did not see before. And that is because you repeated yourself. Do you want to think while you're repeating? Not necessary. Just because, I mean, often you have got great ideas where you're having a breakfast or probably while you're having a bath or something. So ideas come up because the mind is thinking all the time. So let it think on its own. You can always keep on cycling. Why do you want to think about how should I sit? Can I sit? Am I holding the handlebars right and all that? Why do you want to do that? You cycle away as much as you want. The more you cycle, the better it is. I suspect thoughtless action probably is far better than thoughtful action. It's worth trying it out.
Understood, yeah.
Hi, is there an example of a game that you designed, perhaps, that you can show to ground whatever you've been saying? Like, do you have?
I
Is
don't
it
have any. The
online
only
or
things
is
I
it
can
on?
show is the people who played. Design. I don't have one because we looked at a game as a service, not as a product. We said that our clients who wanted games, we need to first talk and find out what is exactly do you need. Then let me shape the game and then conduct it for you. If you buy the game off a shelf, it means you know better. But our suggestion was that, look, you do not know better. Imagine me as a surgeon. So tell me where it hurts and I'll tell you whether you need a surgery or not. And when I do a surgery for you, relax, I'll do it for you, don't worry about it. I'll pick the right kind of surgery, where it hurts, whatever, I'll take it on. You don't have to tell me, please take out this particular organ or something like that. Because my focus is learning, and I think we've been into the learning field for such a long time. 20 years is a huge, it's more than a generation, that we can understand why or how a player would learn. In fact, when we play games, we intend to look at every person and try to track them down and try to find out why is he not learning. His colleague is learning, probably answering the same question that he asked. Two people sitting next to each other. One doesn't learn, the other one learns. One is participating, the other one is not.
Yeah.
So to your question, I don't have a kind of something that I can show us. That's the best view I gave you, a video and a still image.